Are the claims by Bob Lazar correct? Did he really work on alien spacecraft? Only Bob knows the truth, but there may be scientific details we can investigate. In this episode, we scientifically scrutinize some of the claims made or inferred by Bob Lazar, so that you can make up your own mind. Let's begin. What is evidence? This seems like an easy question to answer, but it actually isn't. Anything you read could be fabricated, including government documents. Anything you hear could be a lie, and anything you see can be faked. This happens all the time over the internet. Propaganda is rife in the modern world, and therefore, only one form of actual evidence exists. This is the evidence that you can verify for yourself, personally. So the next question becomes, what can we verify for ourselves? Well, there is a simple answer to this question, and it doesn't involve holding a piece of element 115 in the palm of your hand. The way we can all do this is by being shown a step-by-step calculation and crunching the numbers for ourselves. Don't rely upon someone else telling you something is right or wrong, good or bad. Execute the calculation for yourself. We all have brains, and we all have the ability to acquire the skills to utilize them effectively. This means that the excuse of lacking mathematical skills to verify an outcome is simply an excuse to be lazy. Very few people are so mentally challenged that they cannot drive a calculator or hold a pen. So, going forward, we shall not be placing any faith or confidence in what people say or claim about Bob Lazar. He, as a human being, is irrelevant to our analysis. Hence, any and all points connected to his place in society or his humanity is now irrelevant. We can leave these sorts of discussions to sensationalist media outlets and money-motivated YouTubers. Now, let's look at establishing the scientific credibility of our primary equation. Our entire scientific analysis of the Lazar claims is based upon one single equation derived from a process spanning episode 1 to episode 5. So, can we trust this equation? Well, that depends upon what a viewer believes constitutes evidence. Unfortunately, we are unable to provide evidence in the form of human testimony, fake documents, redacted government documents, human opinion, blog posts, criminal records, phone books, or identity cards. Sadly, we are limited to experimentally verified physical measurement. Unfortunately, we are limited to what science understands as being true evidence. We recognize that people enjoy listening to the voice of talkers, criticizers, conspiracy theorists, and sensationalists, but on this occasion, we have decided to limit ourselves to experimentally verified evidence, and in particular, evidence which viewers of this presentation may reproduce for themselves, that is, if they can be bothered to do so. But we're guessing, most of you won't do it because you're too busy and have many excuses. So you'll probably just continue reinforcing your existing fantasies, drink beer and eat more potato chips. In this illustration, we see that our primary equation, which was derived in episode 1 to episode 5, yields astonishing experimentally verified results. We have confirmed that a single equation can be utilized to describe reality from the quantum scale to the cosmological scale, and everything in between. Everything on screen is significant and jumps substantially ahead of the standard models of particle physics and cosmology. But perhaps most notably, the STORY 2008 power spectrum Hubble constant was predicted 5 years in advance of experimental validation. This is historically verifiable fact, and we suggest that you follow the links shown in order to verify it for yourselves. To the best of our knowledge, STORY does not and did not own a billion-dollar satellite in order to cheat the system. However, it is widely suspected that STORY has more money than God, so we can never be certain. Now that we have established the scientific credibility of the STORY equation, let's look at the governing physical principle. Our Lazar solution is constructed from a governing principle termed zero-point field equilibrium. This is a form of equilibrium whereby the zero-point field, that is, the ground state of the quantum vacuum, pushes back upon matter, acting to contain it. It's a knife-edge balancing act, whereby all matter exists in slight disequilibrium, by losing mass energy to the quantum vacuum. The quantum vacuum returns this energy in the form of virtual photons, as we see in the Casimir effect, ensuring a net cosmological equilibrated state, and ensuring that the mass-energy conservation law is satisfied. This principle has yielded the size of all fundamental particles, the Hubble constant and the cosmic microwave background radiation temperature. We encourage our viewers to review episodes 1 to 13. Let's now look at the math. In order to scientifically scrutinize Lazar's claims, we need to put our thinking hats on. We know that element 115 is a key actor, so let's look at that first. Well, since artificially generated terrestrial forms of element 115 are experimentally confirmed to be unstable, let's simplify the problem by disregarding the mass-energy contributions of the electrons altogether. Next, let's simplify the problem again, by assuming that the nucleus of the element 115 atom is perfectly spherical. Once we have done this, we can compute an estimated simplified value of nucleonic volume, as shown. Hence, we are now able to apply the principle of harmonics, utilizing the equation on slide 3, and our periodic table of harmonic solutions derived and explained in episode 8. With this completed, we may generate our first estimate in the pathway to a completed solution. Please review episode 8 if you have not already done so. Now, let's try to improve the estimate. And incidentally, here is where things start getting very interesting. We can see that the ratio of the harmonic cutoff frequency of element 115 to the proton is approximately 1.2. Let's pause here for a moment to consider the following thought. If element 115 generates an anti-gravitational signal, as reported by Bob Lazar, then this implies that we may conceptualize element 115 as being anti-gravitational material. If it is anti-gravitational, this means that it must be some sort of reflection of the most common element in the universe, that is, the hydrogen atom. In other words, element 115 must be anti-gravitational with respect to a single proton, that is, it must be anti-gravitational with respect to the most abundant matter in the universe, or element 115 isn't anti-gravitational, it's something else. We would need another word to describe it. In other words, imagine if element 115 was anti-gravitational to plutonium only. In such a case, it really wouldn't be anti-gravitational, it would be a case of some sort of special relationship between plutonium and element 115. The term anti-gravitational could not be applied. To apply the term anti-gravitational, it must apply to the hydrogen atom, at the very least. With this in mind, it means that we might expect the ratio of harmonic cutoff frequencies to equal unity. Moving forward on this basis, we are able to calculate a new set of estimates. So, what we're now seeing is mathematical evidence of the element 115 atom, generating a signal to be amplified, at 11.44 GHz, at a wavelength of 26.2 mm. The reason we are focusing on the fundamental harmonic frequency and not the quantum vacuum cutoff frequency, is because the specific quantum vacuum frequency we intend to extract and amplify, must reach beyond the radius of the nucleus, otherwise any attempt to amplify the signal is technically impossible. If all element 115 quantum vacuum frequencies did not extend beyond the nucleus, we would be able to dismiss the possibility of an element 115 propulsion system immediately. Let's now take a closer look at the concept of quantum vacuum frequencies extending beyond the nucleus. This algorithm calculates the percentage of quantum vacuum harmonic frequency modes which do not extend beyond the nucleus, therefore, are unreachable. In other words, we literally cannot reach these wavelengths in order to amplify their signal. Hence thus far, we have ascertained that element 115 produces an electromagnetic-like signal at 11.44 GHz, at a wavelength of 26.2 mm. This is what we need to amplify. At this juncture, it's worthwhile emphasizing that we have used the same equation which has been experimentally validated against the root mean squared charge radius of the proton, and mean squared charge radius of the neutron. Please review slide 3. The next thing we're going to look at is how to model the target environment, that is, how to model the gravitational acceleration field at the surface of the Earth. The way we're going to do this is by studying the behavior of the unit harmonic operator, defined in episode 2. Once we do this, we're able to see that the majority of gravitational acceleration occurs at low harmonic modes in a Fourier spectrum representation of gravity. In fact, we can see that the significant majority of modes sum to greater than 99.9% of the value of gravitational acceleration, within the first 415 modes. We have also determined that a small computational fluctuation occurs around the 421st mode. However, this trivial fluctuation may be ignored as we have confirmed it to be a computational environment-related issue. With the suspect harmonic frequency mode identified, we can now calculate the associated harmonic cutoff frequency. The way we'll do this is by plotting the Earth's 415th gravitational harmonic mode, and measuring the output graphically. When we've done this, we determine that the required modeling frequency is approximately 7.43 Hz. Therefore, our conclusion is that an element 115 electromagnetic signal at 11.44 GHz is amplified, then burst released towards the Earth at 7.43 Hz, phase shifting 180 degrees as required. Let's look at what we have achieved so far with our Lazar solution, and put it in context. Recalling slide 3, we were shown 6 instances, whereby the Storti equation has been experimentally verified. Most impressively, with respect to the power spectrum Hubble constant, being predicted and published 5 years in advance of experimental verification. This is a non-trivial event. The fact that it is unknown within the scientific community, is an issue for the community, not for the solution published by the Australian Institute of Physics. Now, let's overlay the Lazar solution. Clearly, we see that the Lazar solution is an impressive company. On this basis, it would be remiss to flippantly dismiss Lazar's claims of microwave frequency range in 7.46 Hz, but we'll talk more about that coming up. Bob Lazar made 3 key claims for us to scrutinize, as appears on screen. The first claim being that the gravity A wave pulsed at a frequency of 7.46 Hz. This information can be found on his website, boblazar.com. Quite astonishingly, we have derived a result extremely close to this value, as presented on previous slides, that is, 7.43 Hz. From an engineering perspective, we have derived an exact match. It is inconceivable that Lazar could have randomly guessed this value, without supplying any scientific basis for his guess. If this has not grabbed your attention, then you may wish to seek some other activity to occupy your time, because science isn't your medium. If you rely more heavily on witness testimony as a form of evidence, you're in trouble, and it might be a good idea to look away at this point. Let's tackle the next claim. Throughout the 30-year-long Lazar story, Bob Lazar has repeatedly stated that the amplification process appears to be just like microwaves. Therefore, if it is just like microwaves, the element 115 effect can only be occurring at microwave frequencies, therefore occupying the microwave frequency range. This is because the electromagnetic spectrum is very specific and physical size goes hand in hand with frequency. For example, microwave amplification equipment will not work well with electromagnetic frequencies, trillions of times outside the microwave frequency range. So when Bob Lazar has stated countless times that it looked like microwave kit, or can be treated like microwaves, they were microwave frequencies. In which case, we have also validated his claim on previous slides. Once again, utilizing the experimentally verified Storti equation. The third claim was that the antimatter power supply, that is, the fuel, required a very specific manufacturing process. On this matter, we show by utilizing simple geometry and the 26.2 mm dimension already shown on previous slides, that the required geometric solution to satisfy his third claim, drops out with ease. The gravity A wave pulsed at a frequency of 7.46 Hz. Why? Because greater than 99.9% of gravity is cancelled by summing the first 415 harmonic modes in a quantized Fourier spectrum describing a gravitational acceleration field. When this is executed, the pulse frequency is calculated to be 7.43 Hz and should be delivered 180 degrees phase shifted. Moreover, if and only if all Lazar claims regarding element 115 are true, then we have unified quantum mechanics with general relativity in the Fourier domain, by correctly calculating the pulse frequency. If you would like to fully understand how we have arrived at these results, please review all episodes on our channel. Our episodes have been reduced to the minimum level of mathematical complexity possible, in order to assist your comprehension. On this slide, we display the Lazar solution for various gravitational environments. Please take a moment to pause the video and study the table. On this slide, we display the principle of diminishing returns in relation to the Lazar harmonic limit. Please take a moment to pause the video and study the table. Why did the gravity A-wave amplifiers operate in the microwave frequency range? 1. Because the fundamental frequency of element 115's gravitational acceleration spectrum exists in the microwave frequency range, that is, the fundamental frequency equals the minimum quantized frequency. 2. Because the fundamental wavelength of element 115's gravitational spectrum extends beyond the nucleus of the atom, and can be reached in order to be amplified. We showed on slide 6, that the significant majority of harmonic modes, that is, greater than 99.99%, do not extend beyond the nucleus and cannot be reached for engineering purposes. The seemingly mysterious manufacturing process and wedge geometry, as described by Bob Lazar, may be solved with high school mathematics. It is a matter of simple geometry and the complexity of the solution is actually very low. However, the key to the solution is firstly determining the associated fundamental wavelength. Without this critical piece of information, no solution can be finalized. Or in other words, once you have the fundamental wavelength, you have the complete solution in your hand. Please take a moment to pause the video and study the information provided. Please take a moment to pause the video and study the information provided. Our conclusions regarding Lazar's claims, by this point, should be exceedingly clear. If, in your opinion, you disagree with our assessment of these claims, please consider the fact that the Storti equation has been experimentally verified, as declared on slide 3. This means that in order to dispute our conclusions, one must overturn the Storti equation. However, this equation has been experimentally verified in numerous instances. Consequently, it seems unlikely that you may be able to apply scientific argument to refute the claims of Bob Lazar. Unfortunately for yourself, it appears that you will need to rely upon human testimony and opinion, not science, in order to communicate your seemingly biased narrative. Good luck with your endeavor.